Hello, my name is Kieran Wachter-Green, and I'm a lecturer here at NYU in the Expository Writing program. This tutorial is going to provide you with an introduction to problem, argument, and idea. And these are concepts that you're likely familiar with. However, in the context of expository writing, these concepts are a bit more complicated. So here is a definition of problem. And at this point in the video, I encourage you to pause the video and read this definition to yourself. However, to briefly summarize what problem is, it is a genuine question, puzzle, or dilemma that emerges from the topic or text and motivates the writer's inquiry. When we think about problem, we often think of it as something that needs to be solved. However, it means something more than that in the context of written work. When I'm thinking about synonyms to consider how I might interpret problem in my own words, I think of motivation. What is driving the writer to write? Think of motivation as the engine that is driving the essay. It's the catalyst. What is inspiring the writer to write? What is inspiring the writer to go on this exploratory journey? Because here, problem is not so much something that needs to be solved, it's really something that is ripe for exploration. And then lastly, I think of it as curiosity. So it's important to note here, I think, that curiosity means evidence-based. So the writer has experienced something, has witnessed something in his or her own life that makes the writer curious, that makes the writer want to sit down and write something. Again, here is a definition of argument, and I encourage you to take the time to read through this definition. However, to summarize briefly, an argument is a mode of discourse that advances a thesis or claim about how an audience should view and respond to that specific problem. When we think about argument in our daily lives, we often think of something heated. It's a debate. One person is right, one person is wrong, and the goal is to win. However, in the context of written work, an argument is more complex than that. So some synonyms that I've come up with to interpret argument in my own words include perspective. You'll notice in that definition the word capacious is bolded. And what that word roughly means is rich, sizable, roomy. So the perspective that the writer is taking is one that's generous. It's generous toward other people's ideas, other people's arguments. An argument is a response, but it's not a gut reaction. It's not coming from a place of opinion. It's a response that, again, takes thoughtful consideration of all the evidence presented in the essay to take a stance. And that stance is critical. What that means is the writer can often be critical of himself or herself, and very likely critical of other writers and other ideas that he or she is incorporating into this written work. And lastly, an argument is persuasion. The writer is trying to persuade the audience to take a specific stance toward the problem. However, this persuasion is thoughtful. It's not opinion-based. Here's a definition of idea. Again, take the time, please, on your own to read through this definition. But to briefly summarize idea, it is the insight into that specific problem. And it also contains within it the conceptual issues of the essay's argument. So we might think of idea as something that we just come up with on the spur of the moment. But what's really important to note about idea in the context of written work is that it is intimately related to the problem and the argument. So again, some synonyms. The idea, we might think of it as the aha moment, the new understanding that the writer comes to by exploring, by working his or her way through the problem and the argument. The idea is the big picture. It's really a way of seeing. It's a way of thinking. It's a perspective that the writer can take with himself or herself into the real world to think about how this problem and this argument play out in that context. Which brings us to stakes. You have likely heard the phrase, what's at stake? Really what that means is, so what? Who cares? Why does this matter? Who does this problem matter to? And why? So to recap, a problem is a genuine question, puzzle, or dilemma that motivates the writer's inquiry. An argument is in response to the problem. It's a thesis or a claim about how the audience should think about that problem. And then lastly, the idea is that it's the insight, it's the big picture, it's the aha moment into the specific problem. And it contains within it the conceptual issues of the essay's argument, so the stakes. Again, why does this problem and argument matter, and who does it matter to? And so as you can see, problem, argument, and idea are intimately connected to one another. They are integrated together. They're in conversation with one another. They're dependent upon one another. And problem, argument, and idea are concepts that you can find in any text you encounter across disciplines. So hopefully this tutorial has helped you gain a better understanding of these concepts, and thank you for watching.